Welcome to Sleepy Science, a calm corner of the earth where curiosity settles as gently as dust on stone. Tonight's journey takes us beneath our feet into the deep patience of rocks, where the planet's diary is written in layers of fire, water, and time before we set out. I would love to know where in the world you are listening from. It is always humbling to think of these stories being heard across so many different landscapes, all resting on the same ancient ground. If you enjoy these quiet explorations, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. A warm thank you as well to those already here. You are helping this little circle of listeners grow. I hope this story soothes you toward rest. Though fair warning, the earth has a way of being a little too captivating. If you do find yourself wide awake at the end, at least you will have learned something wonderful about the stones beneath you. So let us begin with a quiet question to carry. What memories does the ground beneath you hold? And how did stone learn to remember time itself? Imagine yourself holding a stone. It sits quietly in your palm, cool, unchanging, weighty. At first glance, it seems ordinary, just a small piece of the ground. Yet, in truth, you are holding time itself. Rocks are not silent at all. They are storytellers, keepers of memories that stretch back farther than any human history. Every stone is a page torn from Earth's diary, written in fire, water, and pressure, carried through ages older than mountains. Breathe slowly. Inhale the stillness of stone. Exhale the memory it holds. The ground beneath you is not inert. It is a record of transformations, each rock formed under conditions that shape its identity. Some rocks are born of fire igneous, created when molten magma cools and hardens. Others are layered by water sedimentary, built from grains of sand, shells, and clay pressed together over millions of years. Still others are forged under immense pressure and heat, metamorphic, changed into new forms without ever melting. Each kind of rock carries the signature of its birth, like handwriting in the diary of the earth. Hold a piece of granite in your mind's hand. It is coarse, flecked with quartz, feldspar, mica. It cooled slowly beneath the surface of the earth, giving its crystals time to grow large and visible. Granite is patient, its story one of steady cooling and stability. Now imagine sandstone, soft to the touch, its grains rounded and bonded together. Each grain is the fragment of another rock, broken, carried by wind or river, deposited in layers. Sandstone's story is one of journeys, of movement, and then picture marble smooth, luminous, transformed from limestone under heat and pressure. Its swirls are memory rewritten, pages pressed and rewritten by the earth's hand. Pause here. Inhale the patience of granite. Exhale the journeys of sandstone. Every stone has traveled farther than you can imagine. Some may have once been part of the ocean floor, holding shells of creatures long vanished. Others may have erupted from volcanoes that no longer exist. Still others may have been buried deep in the crust, transformed silently for eons before rising to the surface again. Rocks are not lifeless. They are witnesses, shaped by fire, water, and time, carrying within them the memory of Earth's shifting face. To walk on a path, to touch a mountain, even to hold a pebble, is to touch these memories. You step not only on ground, but on history itself. Breathe gently. Inhale the depth of ages. Exhale the presence of history beneath your feet. Scientists call this study geology, the reading of Earth's diary through stone. Each mineral, each fossil, each layer tells a story. Strata of sedimentary rock reveal the passing of time like lines on a page, each layer a chapter of floods, deserts, or seas. Igneous flows reveal eruptions frozen into permanence. Metamorphic folds show the Earth's pressures, twisting pages into new scripts. To read rocks is to learn how continents moved, how oceans rose and fell, how mountains rose and wore away. But beyond science, there is poetry here too. To hold a rock is to feel patience itself. Stones do not hurry. They change on timescales beyond human lives. They remind you that the earth is vast and slow, that change does not always shout but whispers, one grain at a time. Pause once more. Inhale the patience of the planet. Exhale your own rush into stillness. Consider how long stones endure. Civilizations rise and fall in the span of a single boulder's existence. A rock you step on today may have been there when mammoths roamed, when forests covered lands now barren, when oceans lay where deserts now spread. Some crystals inside the earth are older than the moon itself. These stones do not only remember, they outlast, carrying memory through deep time. And yet, for all their endurance, stones are fragile too. Water cracks them, wind wears them, ice splits them apart. Over ages, even the hardest granite returns to sand, each grain beginning a new journey. Memory is not permanent but cyclical, broken and rewritten again and again. This too is part of their story. To endure, to erode, to begin anew. The stone in your imagination is both strong and fragile, both ancient and ever-changing. In its silence lies the paradox of earthen changing in the moment, yet never the same across time. Breathe again. Inhale the endurance of rock. Exhale the truth of its change. There is metaphor here, one you carry within yourself. Just as rocks hold memory, so do you. Your bones are made of minerals, your body of elements, once part of stone. You too are shaped by pressures, by moments of fire and transformation, by the layering of days and years. Like rocks, you carry memories, some etched sharply, some blurred, some rewritten. To think of yourself as stone is to feel your own depth, your own endurance, your own quiet patience as you prepare for deeper rest. Imagine yourself lying upon the earth. Beneath you stretch layers of stone, formed across eons, each one holding memory. Volcanoes long gone, seas long dried, mountains long eroded, all remembered here. You are held by this diary, cradled by the patience of the planet. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the story of the stone. Exhale into the comfort of its memory. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. A stone in your hand is not only matter, but memory. It is the cool, silent page of Earth's diary, written in fire, pressure, and ancient seas. Beneath your feet lies history itself, patient, enduring, reminding you that time is vast, and that you, too, are part of its story. Imagine walking along a rocky path and noticing a small imprint in the stonospiral. A fern, the faint outline of a shell. At first, it seems like a decoration, a pattern left by chance. But then you realize what it truly is, a fossil, the preserved memory of life that lived long before you. In your hand, you hold not just a rock, but a voice from the past, a whisper carried through millions of years. Fossils begin when life meets the patience of stone. A creature dies a fish in shallow waters, a leaf falling into mud, a shell resting on the seabed. Most vanish quickly, scattered or dissolved. But sometimes conditions align. The body is buried fast, shielded from decay, pressed beneath layers of sediment. Over time, minerals seep in, replacing tissue grain by grain, or leaving an impression where the living form once lay. The result is a fossil, a memory locked in stone. Breathe slowly. Inhale the patience of earth. Exhale the whispers of lives long gone. There are many kinds of fossils, each telling a different kind of story. Some are body fossils, the bones of dinosaurs, the shells of ancient mollusks, the trunks of petrified trees. They are the most vivid, holding the very shapes of creatures who walked, swam, or grew millions of years ago. Others are trace fossils, not bodies, but signs of movement, footprints, burrows, trails across ancient mud. These reveal not what a creature looked like, but how it lived, how it moved, how it touched the earth. Imagine the preserved track of a dinosaur, its steps frozen mid-stride. It is not only stone, it is a moment, an animal walking across wet ground, never knowing that its print would remain long after its body was gone. Or think of a leaf fossil, delicate veins pressed into rock, so fragile it looks as though it could crumble at a breath. Yet it has endured longer than cities, longer than mountains. Fossils are echoes, not only of forms, but of gestures, of moments once alive. Pause here. Inhale the steps of ancient creatures. Exhale the stillness of their memory. To scientists, fossils are a record of evolution, proof that life has shifted, adapted, blossomed, and vanished across eons. Through them, we see fish grow legs, reptiles take flight, plants spread across continents. Each fossil is a page in the great history of life, a testimony that the earth is not static, but alive with change. To hold a fossil is to see the bridge between worlds, what once was and what is now. But beyond science, fossils are also poetry. They remind you of continuity, that life is a thread unbroken, stretching from the first organisms in ancient seas to you breathing now. The shell in stone once belonged to a creature that lived, moved, ate, rested. It had its place, just as you have yours. Its voice has not vanished, speaks softly if you listen. Breathe gently. Inhale the thread of continuity. Exhale the truth of belonging. Fossils also teach impermanence. For every life preserved, countless more vanished without trace. Fossilization is rare, a miracle of timing and chance. What remains is not the full choir of history, but scattered voices. And yet, even a whisper is enough to tell the story of the whole. From fragments, we imagine entire worlds, seas filled with trilobites, forests of towering ferns, skies with wingspans larger than any bird alive today. The imagination fills in what the stone does not. There is metaphor here too. Within you, as within stone, impressions remain. Memories press themselves into your mind, shaping who you are. Some fade, some dissolve, but others endure, becoming fossils of experience moments preserved long after their passing. They remind you that your own life, too, is written in layers, your own diary pressed quietly into time. Pause once more. Inhale the memory of your own fossils. Exhale the weight they carry. Consider the patience of fossils. A leaf falls into mud. Pressure builds. Sediment layers above it. Minerals seep in, atom by atom. Millions of years pass. Mountains rise and erode. Seas shift. Continents drift. Finally, the stone breaks open, and the leaf's pattern is revealed. A moment once fleeting is restored, shown to eyes that were never meant to see it. Fossils are not only whispers, they are resurrections, brief returns of voices once thought lost. As you prepare for rest, imagine yourself holding such a stone. Its weight is small, but its story immense. Within it lies the hush of oceans that no longer exist, forests that have turned to coal, creatures that walked where now there are cities. You hold in your hand not just rock but memory, not just silence but voices from ages deep. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the echo of ancient seas. Exhale into the quiet of stone. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Fossils are not relics but whispers, voices calling softly across millions of years. Bones, shells, and leaves pressed into permanence remind you that life endures in memory, that nothing is ever fully gone. Within stone, the earth keeps its diary, and you, listening, become part of its story. Imagine standing in a field where, long ago, a giant once passed. The ground beneath your feet carries its imprint, a footprint pressed into mud, hardened into stone, and preserved across millions of years. You bend down and place your hand inside it. The track is wider than your chest, deeper than your step, yet it is a presence, a moment of life, caught in the diary of Earth. The age of giants is not gone. Entirely it lingers in these silent marks. Breathe slowly. Inhale the echo of their steps. Exhale the vastness of their world. Dinosaurs once filled the earth with their movement, their voices, their breath. Some thundered across plains, their bodies taller than houses, necks sweeping the sky as they grazed treetops. Others darted lightly on clawed feet, swift as hawks, chasing prey through forests. Some spread wings of skin and bone, gliding or flapping across prehistoric skies. For more than 150 million years, they were the dominant life forms of the planet. Where you stand, now whether meadow, mountain, or city street, once lay within their realm. The earth was different then. Continents clustered together, climates warmer, seas wider. Lush forests of ferns and conifers spread across vast lands. Rivers meandered through floodplains where herds of sauropods gathered, their tails sweeping mud, their footsteps carving valleys. In coastal shallows, armored creatures lumbered, while sharp-toothed predators prowled, each adapted to the rhythm of this ancient world. Pause here. Inhale the greenness of their forests. Exhale the weight of their herds. Not all dinosaurs were massive, though the giants are easiest to imagine. Some were small as birds, nimble and quick. Some dug burrows, some hunted in packs, some scavenged from the kills of others. The age of giants was also the age of diversity. From towering sauropods to fleet-footed raptors, from armored stegosaurs to horned ceratopsians, They filled niches in ways as varied as modern animals do. The world was alive with their presence, each species a line in the great poem of evolution. The marks they left are still with us. Fossil bones, curved and petrified, reveal their size and form. Eggs, sometimes entire nests, show how they lived and cared for their young. Skin impressions, feather traces, and trackways add detail to the picture, reminders that these creatures were not myths but realities. Every footprint pressed into mud is a moment, a step taken by an animal, unaware that it would one day vanish. Breathe gently. Inhale the patience of their preservation. Exhale the silence of their absence. Extinction came slowly, then suddenly. Climate shifts tested their endurance. Volcanic eruptions darkened skies. Seas rose and fell. And then, one day, an asteroid struck the Earth. Its impact lit the sky with fire, sent tsunamis across oceans, choked the air with dust. The rhythm of the planet shifted, and the giants who had reigned for so long fell silent. What had seemed eternal ended in an instant. Yet not all was lost. Birds, their small feathered descendants, still fly above you. Their songs are echoes of ancient voices, their bones light yet strong, their movements reminders that the age of giants has not vanished completely, it has transformed. Every sparrow and eagle carries the lineage of dinosaurs, proof that life adapts, survives, and continues its story even after endings. Pause once more. Inhale the resilience of life. Exhale the transformation of time. To walk among fossilized tracks is to feel this continuity. You see the depth of a footprint and imagine the weight that pressed it. You trace the curve of a claw and imagine the animal lifting its foot, unaware that it left a mark for millions of years. These tracks are more than stone, they are gestures frozen in time. The handwriting of giants written across ancient mud. There is metaphor here. Your own life, too, leaves impressions, footsteps, choices, memories. Some fade quickly, like marks in sand. Others endure, pressed into the lives of those around you, hardened into stories told long after. The age of giants reminds you that no life is wasted, that every step has weight, that even extinction is not only silence but transformation. Science reads the age of giants through fossils, bones assembled into towering skeletons, studied to reveal muscles, movements, diets. Museums display these forms not as monsters, but as creatures who once breathed, lived, and died beneath the same sky you see today. Paleontologists kneel in deserts, brushing dust from bone fragments, piecing together the past. Their work is not only science, but translations, the effort to give voice to whispers left in stone. Yet beyond science lies wonder. To imagine a creature longer than a train, taller than a building, moving slowly through forests of ferns, is to step outside the scale of ordinary life. To think of a predator swift and sharp, hunting with precision, is to feel awe at nature's inventiveness. Dinosaurs are reminders that the Earth's creativity exceeds your imagination, that time has carried forms more diverse and astonishing than you will ever fully know. Breathe again. Inhale the awe of their existence. Exhale the humility it brings. As you prepare for rest, picture yourself wandering a prehistoric plain. Around you, herds of giants move, their footsteps shaking the ground. A pterosaur, glides overhead, its shadow crossing your face. In the distance, the low rumble of thunder may be the sound of Stormmoor, the call of a massive creature beyond the trees. You walk quietly, knowing you are a guest in their time, listening to their world as though it were a dream, and then the dream fades. The giants vanish, the plain dissolves, and you return to the present. Cities rise where they once roamed, forests different from theirs spread, oceans shift. Yet the tracks remain, the fossils whisper, the birds sing. The age of giants is not forgotten, it is remembered in stone, in feathers, in the very air. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the memory of their steps. Exhale the truth of their transformation. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Dinosaurs once walked where cities now stand. Their footsteps pressed into mud, hardened into stone, remain as whispers of their time. You wander among these tracks, picturing lives that moved slowly into the silence of extinction. And you rest knowing that even endings are not erasures, but chapters in Earth's endless diary. Imagine standing at the base of a tall cliff, your eyes following its face upward. At first, you see only layers of rock gray, beige, sometimes striped with darker seams. But then, if you look closely, you notice patterns, the curves of shells, the fragments of corals, the shapes of once living creatures pressed into stone. This wall of rock was once an ocean, a place where sunlight filtered through water, where waves lapped against reefs, where countless organisms lived, died, and left behind their bodies to settle as sediment. The cliff is not only stone, it is a sea turned solid, waves written into permanence. Breathe slowly. Inhale the hush of ancient waters. Exhale the stillness of stone. Limestone, one of the most common rocks, is built from the accumulation of shells, corals, and the skeletal remains of marine life. Over millions of years, these fragments gathered at the bottom of shallow seas. Pressure pressed them together, and minerals bound them into solidity. What was once fragile, a shell no thicker than paper, a coral delicate as lace, became strong enough to form mountains. To touch limestone is to touch the memory of oceans that no longer exist. Shale tells a similar story, though quieter. Formed from mud and clay settling at the bottom of calm seas, it holds the finest of sediments. Layer upon layer of silt was laid down, compressed until it became rock. Within shale, fossils of fish, plants, and delicate impressions of leaves often remain, preserved by the still waters that buried them. Shale is the diary of ancient seas, written in fine handwriting, each layer a page of silt pressed by time. Pause here. Inhale the patience of settling mud. Exhale the transformation into stone. To imagine these rocks as seas is to see the world differently. Where you now stand, on mountainsides, in valleys, beside cliffs, was once underwater. Waves rolled above, fish swam where you walk, corals grew where you plant your feet. The dry landscapes of today hold the memory of oceans in their bones. Every limestone hill was once a reef, every shale deposit once a seabed. You live on land shaped not only by mountains rising, but by seas receding. The creatures that built these rocks are long gone, but their voices remain. Fossilized corals tell of reefs stretching across continents. Shells locked in stone tell of shallow lagoons. Even microscopic plankton, when buried and compressed, contributed their calcium skeletons, building vast deposits that later hardened into rock. The largest stones on Earth began with the smallest lives, a reminder that greatness often grows from countless tiny contributions. Breathe gently. Inhale the memory of small lives. Exhale the strength they created together. Some of the world's most iconic landscapes are seas turned to stone. The white cliffs of Dover, bright against the English coast, are built from chalk-tiny shells of plankton accumulated over millions of years. Now rising hundreds of feet above the sea they once belonged to. The limestone towers of the Dolomites in Italy were once coral reefs, thriving in warm waters before tectonic shifts lifted them skyward. Even the Himalayas' tallest mountains on Earth contain layers of limestone filled with marine fossils, reminders that these peaks once lay beneath ancient seas before colliding continents thrust them upward to stand in. These places is to feel time differently. You are not only on land, you are on seabeds raised to the sky, oceans solidified into stone. The world beneath your feet is not fixed, it is a memory of waves. Pause once more. Inhale the lift of ancient seas. Exhale the rise of mountains made from water's bones. Science reads these rocks to understand the history of the planet. Limestone reveals where warm, shallow seas once spread. Shale reveals calm waters where fine sediments gathered. Fossils within them show how life evolved: corals expanding, trilobites scuttling, fish swimming in the silence of ancient oceans. Each cliff, each outcrop, each boulder is a book written in stone, telling of oceans long gone but never forgotten. Yet beyond science lies something softer. To know that seas have become stone is to rest in the truth of change. What feels permanent, the land beneath you, is not permanent at all. Oceans rise and fall, mountains lift and erode, rocks crumble back to sand. Nothing is fixed, yet everything is connected. What you see as stone was once water, and what is water today may one day be stone. There is metaphor here for your own life. Just as oceans become cliffs, your experiences fluid, shifting, fleeting, settle within you. Over time, they harden into memory, shaping who you are. The laughter of childhood, the challenges you endured, the joys and griefs of years past, teach is a layer pressed within you, forming your own cliffs of memory. To look at rock is to see your own reflection, a being shaped by time, by weight, by transformation. Breathe again. Inhale the flow of memory. Exhale the solidity it has become. As you prepare for rest, imagine yourself swimming in one of those ancient seas. Around you, corals sway, fish shimmer, shells rest on the sand below. Sunlight filters through the water, rippling across your skin. Slowly, the water thickens, stills, hardens. The sea becomes stone, and you find yourself walking along cliffs, touching the fossils of the lives you once swam beside. Time has folded water into rock, and yet the memory of waves remains. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the sea that was. Exhale the stone that is. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Many rocks were once oceans. Layers of limestone and shale are pages of ancient seas, filled with corals and shells. You drift as if swimming there, before waves hardened into cliffs. In stone, the earth remembers water, and in water, it always remembers stone. Beneath your feet, the earth is never still. Even when hills seem solid, even when mountains stand tall, the crust is moving, folding, pressing. Time itself is heavy, and it works slowly, patiently, shaping stone as though the planet were a sculptor with infinite patience. Under pressure and heat, rock is never fixed, it transforms. Soft mud hardening into slate, buried limestone turning into marble, minerals recrystallizing into shining gems. Breathe slowly. Inhale the weight of ages. Exhale the quiet sculpting of stone. When sediments gather in oceans or rivers, they settle into layers of shale or sandstone. At first, they are soft, easily broken, their memory fragile. But as layers build above, the weight presses downward. Minerals shift, grains lock tighter, water is squeezed out. Heat from within the earth joins the pressure, altering the very structure of the rock. This is metamorphosis, the change of one form into another. Rocks, like stories, are never final. They are rewritten under pressure. Slate begins as mud, simple clay, deposited in thin layers, resting quietly at the bottom of ancient seas. As pressure builds, the clay hardens, its structure realigns into neat, flat planes. The result is slate strong, durable, used by humans to roof houses, write lessons, mark gravestones. Each piece of slate you see once drifted as mud in silence, later transformed by time's hand. Pause here. Inhale the patience of mud. Exhale the sharpness of slate. Marble begins as limestone, itself built from countless shells and corals pressed together. Buried deeper, heated and squeezed, its crystals grow larger, glistening in the light. Marble is not just stone, it is limestone reborn, its fossils erased, its surface polished into luminous swirls. Sculptors have long chosen marble for its beauty, carving human forms from what was once the memory of seas. In each statue, you see not only artistry, but transformation. Pressure turned into grace. Quartzite, too, tells this story. Born from sandstone, it becomes harder, tougher, its grains fused together. What was once fragile sand becomes a stone capable of resisting centuries of wear. Pressure takes what is weak and gives it strength. Breathe gently. Inhale the fragility of beginnings. Exhale the endurance of transformation. Even gems owe their existence to pressure and time. Deep within the earth, carbon pressed and heated becomes diamond, clear and unyielding. Other minerals form crystals of colors, sapphires, emeralds, garnets, beauty created by the slow work of Earth's inner furnace. These stones are not accidents. They are the diaries of pressure, the testimony of what heat and weight can do over endless spans. Mountains themselves are products of pressure. Where tectonic plates push together, stone folds upward, layer upon layer, rising into peaks. The Himalayas, the Alps, the Rockies, all are pages of rock, bent and lifted, shaped by the meeting of continents. To look at a mountain is to see pressure made visible. Time's sculpting, hand raised skyward. Pause once more. Inhale the rising of stone. Exhale the folding of time. There is metaphor here, as there always is. Just as rocks transform under pressure, so too do you. Challenges compress you, experiences heat you, yet through them you change, gaining strength, clarity, and resilience. What feels like weight may, in time, become transformation. The slate, marble, and quartzite beneath your feet remind you that pressure is not only burden, it is creation. Science studies this transformation carefully. Under microscopes, geologists see minerals recrystallize, aligned by stress. They measure the heat, the depths, the pressures required. They classify rocks by their origins: igneous, born of fire; sedimentary, born of layers; metamorphic, born of pressure and time. But beyond classification, the truth remains simple. Nothing is static. Even stone, which seems eternal, is a process, always becoming something else. And so you rest in this thought: the earth is a sculptor, shaping itself grain by grain, fold by fold. What you see as cliffs and mountains are sculptures millions of years in the making. To stand before them is to witness not only grandeur, but patience, a reminder that beauty is often slow, forged in silence, pressed by time as you prepare for deeper rest. Imagine yourself deep within the earth. Around you, heat glows softly, pressure presses evenly, rocks transform in silence. Mud becomes slate, limestone becomes marble, sand becomes quartzite, crystals form, shining in darkness. Time is the sculptor, and the earth is its stone. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the patience of transformation. Exhale the artistry of time. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Mountains rise when earth folds stone against stone. Heat and pressure transform rock into new forms, soft mud into slate, shining crystals from buried depths. The earth is always sculpting, and you, too, are shaped by time, transformed by pressures into new forms, enduring and beautiful. Imagine standing before a canyon wall, its face stretching high above you. At first, it seems only stone, colored in bands of red, brown, or yellow. But then, as your eyes soften, you begin to see the pattern, the layers stacked one on top of another, each slightly different in shade, texture, and thickness. These are the written layers of earth, chapters of its diary, pressed into rock. Each band is a memory of a different world, a riverbed turned solid, a desert hardened into stone, a forest buried and preserved in fragments of coal. Breathe slowly. Inhale the weight of layers. Exhale the patience of time. Sedimentary rocks are born of accumulation. Wind, water, and ice carry fragments of older stone, soil, shells, and plants. These grains settle in low places, rivers, lakes, seas, and deserts. Over time, more and more material buries them, pressing them together. The fragments fuse, and the once loose grains become rock. But unlike the dense uniformity of granite or basalt, sedimentary rocks preserve their origins. A sandstone still shows the grains of sand that built it. A limestone still carries the shells of tiny creatures. A shale still holds the thin lines of ancient mud. Each one is not only stone, it is memory hardened. Every layer tells of conditions at the time it formed. Red beds may show iron-rich soils oxidized in dry air, telling of deserts long gone. Coal seams whisper of lush swamps where plants once grew thick and tall, their bodies compressed into black fuel. Sandstones mark beaches, dunes, or river channels, their grains rounded by movement. Shales speak of quiet waters, where silt drifted down and settled slowly. To geologists, these rocks are not random. They are sentences in a book written over millions of years. Pause here. Inhale the colors of stone. Exhale the stories they carry. Consider the Grand Canyon in North America. Its walls stretch downward through nearly 2 billion years of layered rock. Each stratum is a different environment. Shallow seas, floodplains, deserts, forests. To walk down the canyon is to walk backward through time, step by step, into older and older worlds. A single cliff face becomes a history more complete than any written by humans. Or think of the cliffs along the coast of England, where alternating chalk and shale reveal ancient cycles of ocean blooms and extinctions. The white chalk layers are made from countless plankton skeletons accumulated in times of abundance. Darker shales mark periods when oceans suffocated, when life thinned. These layers are not just rocks. They are diaries of flourishing and struggle, written in color and grain. Breathe gently. Inhale the richness of life remembered. Exhale the silence that preserved it. Sedimentary layers are also archives of fossils. Within them, shells, leaves, bones, and footprints rest. A slab of sandstone may carry the steps of a dinosaur, frozen mid-stride. Shale may hold delicate fish, their fins outlined in fine detail. Limestone may preserve coral reefs, locked in stone like miniature worlds. Each fossil is a word in the larger sentence of the layer, giving voice to the life that once filled it. Yet the layers are not only vertical, they stretch across landscapes, linking regions. A sandstone in one country may connect to the same layer thousands of miles away, revealing a desert that once spanned continents. A coal seam may trace the memory of a vast swamp, connecting lands that are now separated by oceans. Layers remind you that the Earth is not a patchwork of isolated places, but a continuous story. Its chapters, written across distance as well as depth. Pause once more. Inhale the continuity of stone. Exhale the vastness of its memory. Geologists read these layers like historians, noting thickness, color, grain, and fossil content. From them, they reconstruct climates, environments, even catastrophes. A sudden layer of ash tells of volcanic eruption. A thin, dark band, rich in rare metals, tells of an asteroid impact, marking the moment dinosaurs disappeared. Tilted strata show mountains rising, layers once flat now bent by tectonic movement. The rocks are not silent, they speak, if you know how to listen. And yet, you too can read them, even without training. Look at the colors. Notice the grains. See the transitions from one type of rock to another. Each shift is a change in story, a change in environment. The Earth is offering you its diary, open to any who pause long enough to see. There is metaphor here. Just as Earth carries layers of memory, so do you. Your life is built in straight childhood, youth, adulthood, each layer preserving its own textures, colors, and fossils of experience. Some memories are light and porous, others dense and dark. Some are tilted by upheaval, others eroded by time. But together, they form the cliffs of your identity, the canyon of your being. To know yourself is to read your layers, to honor them without rushing to erase. Breathe again. Inhale the layers of your own story. Exhale the patience of becoming. The written layers also teach for while they endure for millions of years, they are not eternal. Wind and water carve them, rivers cut valleys through them, glaciers scrape them away. Mountains rise, layers fold, rocks crumble back into sediment, beginning the cycle again. What seems fixed is only temporary. The diary is rewritten endlessly, yet each chapter, once formed, has its moment of presence. As you prepare for rest, imagine lying at the base of a canyon wall. Above you rise layers upon layers, bands of color, stretching into the sky. You trace them with your eyes, following the stories of rivers, deserts, forests, seas. You see footprints pressed into stone, shells embedded in cliffs, coal seams dark with ancient forests. You feel the weight of time above you, not as a burden, but as comfort. The earth remembers, and you are part of that memory. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the depth of the canyon. Exhale into the patience of layers. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Sedimentary rocks stack like chapters, each layer a different story of rivers, deserts, or forests. Geologists read them as books written in color and grain. You see the earth not as solid, but as layered memory pages pressed into stone, waiting for you to listen. Deep beneath the surface, the earth breathes fire. Molten rock swirls in chambers of heat, restless and glowing. Most of the time, it stays hidden, locked beneath layers of crust. But sometimes, through cracks and vents, the pressure finds release. A volcano awakens, and the Earth's molten heart pours upward, spilling onto the surface as lava. It is destruction, yes, but also creation. From the fire comes stone, new land, new memory. Breathe slowly. Inhale the heat of the earth. Exhale the cooling calm of stone. When lava flows, it moves like a river, glowing orange, shaping the land with every step. As it cools, it hardens into basalt, a dark, dense stone that makes up much of the ocean floor and many of the world's great plateaus. Basalt is the Earth's foundation, strong and steady, born of fire, yet enduring in silence. To walk on basalt is to tread on cooled fire, a reminder that even the fiercest heat becomes stillness. Obsidian tells a different story. When lava cools too quickly for crystals to form, it hardens into glass. Black, sharp, and shining, obsidian is fire, frozen in an instant. Ancient peoples shaped it into tools and blades, cutting edges sharper than steel. To hold obsidian is to hold a fragment of fire's immediacy, molten breath caught in stones, sudden stillness. Pumice is lighter still, filled with air bubbles, trapped as lava cooled while frothing. It floats on water, unlike almost any other rock. To hold pumice is to feel paradox, stone born of fire, yet light enough to drift like wood. It is fire transformed into fragility, proof that even the earth's violence can create softness. Pause here. Inhale the swiftness of obsidian. Exhale the lightness of pumice. Volcanoes create more than individual rocks. They build landscapes. Islands rise from oceans when lava cools, as Hawaii did and continues to do. Mountains grow around craters, layer by layer, eruption by eruption. Plains of basalt stretch for hundreds of miles where ancient floods of lava once spread. Entire continents are shaped by these fiery events, their foundations laid in heat. And yet, volcanoes are not only violent. After the fire, soil formed from volcanic rock is rich and fertile. Vineyards flourish on volcanic slopes. Forests take root in cooled flows. People build homes in the shadow of craters. Life returns quickly to the land of fire, nourished by minerals released from stone. What begins as eruption ends as growth. Breathe gently. Inhale the cycle of fire. Exhale the gift it leaves behind. Science sees in volcanic rocks a record of Earth's interior. The crystals within basalt tell how quickly it cooled. The gases trapped in pumice whisper of pressure and eruption. Obsidian shows what happens when change is too sudden for order to form. Each fiery stone is a letter from the planet's molten core, a reminder that the Earth is alive beneath its crust. But beyond science, there is metaphor here. Just as lava cools into strength, your own fiery moments, struggles, passions, and upheavals become the foundations of your life. Just as obsidian forms in sudden change, moments that feel sharp and immediate leave impressions that endure. And just as pumice shows lightness born of eruption, even chaos can create gentleness in its aftermath. Pause once more. Inhale the strength of basalt. Exhale the resilience of your own becoming. As you prepare for rest, imagine yourself standing at the edge of a cooled lava flow. Around you stretch dark stones, twisted into ripples where the molten rock once moved. In your hand you hold a piece of obsidian, smooth and glassy, reflecting light like still water. You place it down and lift a pumice stone, so light it almost floats in your palm. Fire is here, yet softened, stilled, transformed. You feel the breath of earth, molten and eternal, captured in these stones. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the fire frozen in stone. Exhale into the calm of its memory, and as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Volcanoes pour molten rock, leaving basalt, obsidian, and pumice. These fiery stones cool into beauty, each carrying the memory of Earth's molten heart. They are fire frozen mid-breath, solid yet glowing in story. Reminders that even the fiercest forces can leave behind quiet gifts. When you imagine fossils, perhaps you think first of bones or shells, of dinosaurs and ancient seas. Yet, sometimes the most powerful fossils are not bodies, but traces footsteps pressed into soft ground, hardened and carried across time. Among these, the footsteps of our ancestors speak with the greatest intimacy. They are not marks of giants, but of beings much like you, walking with their children, carrying their burdens, wandering across landscapes that feel familiar and foreign at once. Breathe slowly. Inhale the nearness of their presence. Exhale the patience of stone. One of the most famous sites lies in Tanzania. There, about 3.6 million years ago, a group of early hominins walked across damp volcanic ash. Soon after, another layer of ash and rain sealed their steps. Over the ages, the ash hardened into rock, preserving their prints as though they had only just passed. When scientists uncovered them, they found not random tracks, but a path, at least 2 individuals, perhaps 3, walking side by side. Their feet were small, but unmistakably human-arched soles, forward-pointing toes. To look at them is to feel that someone like you passed by only moments ago, though millions of years stand between. Elsewhere in the world, other tracks tell similar stories. In Kenya, ancient footprints preserved in mud show early humans walking across wetlands. Some prints are deep, made by heavy steps. Others are small, left by children moving lightly. Together, they sketch a scene, a group, a family, traveling together across the land. You can almost hear the murmur of voices, the splash of water, the rhythm of feet on soft ground. Pause here. Inhale the closeness of their steps. Exhale the silence that carries them forward. These fossil footprints are more than marks. They are windows into daily life. Bones and tools tell us of anatomy and survival. But footprints tell us of movement, how tall someone was, how fast they walked, whether they carried weight. A pair of small prints beside larger ones suggests a child holding the hand of a parent. Variations in stride show who lagged behind, who strode ahead. Each indentation is a gesture across time, an act preserved in ash or mud, waiting for you to notice. One set of tracks in Mexico, pressed into volcanic ash about 10,000 years ago, seems to show a parent carrying a child. The adult's footprints sink deep, their pace steady, while tiny tracks appear and disappear beside them. At moments, the child seems to have been set down, walking a few steps before being lifted again. Reading the tracks, scientists imagine a nighttime journey. A parent moving quickly through dark terrain, carrying not just a child but the urgency of survival. In stone, you see tenderness, burden, and care. Breathe gently. Inhale the love written in footsteps. Exhale the endurance carried across miles. Other footprints reveal communities. In Saudi Arabia, tracks of humans and animals mingle, frozen in dried lakebed sediments. Gazelle, elephants, and ancient humans walked the same paths, sharing waterholes in dry landscapes. These tracks remind you that humans were always part of ecosystems, moving with and among other species. They are not isolated stories, but shared ones, layered into the Earth's memory. What is striking about these footprints is their ordinariness. They are not dramatic fossils of predators or monumental skeletons. They are everyday moments, a walk, a journey, a pause. Yet, perhaps, that is what makes them so moving. In them, you see yourself not in abstract ancestry, but in the rhythm of steps, parents guiding children, groups moving together, wanderers crossing land. They remind you that you too are a walker, part of the same lineage of feet pressing into soil. Pause once more. Inhale the ordinariness of walking. Exhale the extraordinariness of its preservation. Science reads these footprints with careful eyes, measuring depths, angles, distances. From them, researchers can tell how tall someone was, how fast they moved, whether they carried loads. They can even infer social patterns, groups traveling together, family structures hinted at in the spacing of steps. Each fossil track is data, but it is also story. In one print, the weight of a child. In another, the lightness of a playful skip. Beyond science lies poetry. These tracks are not just information, they are intimacy. They show that millions of years ago, someone placed their bare foot upon the ground and kept walking. that touch of skin to earth is preserved, a connection that bridges time. You can place your own foot beside theirs, heel to heel, toe to toe, and feel a shiver of recognition. The print is stone, but it is also presence. Breathe again. Inhale the connection of skin to earth. Exhale the recognition across ages. There is metaphor here too. Your own life leaves footprints, not always in stone, but in memory, in relationships, in the lives of others. You may not know which steps will endure, which gestures will be remembered, which impressions will harden into stories. But each one matters. Each step contributes to the path of humanity, just as those early walkers in ash unknowingly left marks that would one day speak across millions of years. As you prepare for rest, imagine walking across soft ground. With each step, your foot presses gently, leaving a trace. Behind you, others follow, children and companions. The air is cool, the land wide. You do not know that your steps will last, but you walk anyway, part of the rhythm of life. Now imagine the ground hardening, your tracks preserved, waiting quietly in stone. Thousands of years later, someone pauses, bends down, and places their foot inside your print. They feel your presence as you now feel the presence of those before. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the tenderness of footsteps. Exhale the memory they carry. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Not only dinosaurs left tracks, early humans walked across volcanic ash, leaving prints that hardened into stone. These footsteps are tender reminders of parents, children, wanderer stories pressed into the earth itself, calling softly across time, reminding you that every step is part of the same long journey. Imagine a mountain rising tall and sharp against the horizon. It feels eternal, immovable, a wall of stone against the sky. Yet even mountains do not last unchanged. Slowly, quietly, the sculptors arrive, not with hammers or chisels, but with rain, rivers, wind, and ice. They work patiently, their hands soft but persistent, shaping stone grain by grain, curve by curve, until sharp peaks soften into rolling hills and wide valleys. Breathe slowly. Inhale the stillness of mountains. Exhale the patience of their sculptors. Rain is one of the gentlest tools, yet one of the most powerful. A drop falling onto rock seems harmless, but when repeated over centuries, it seeps into cracks, dissolves minerals, and carries fragments away. Rain gathers into streams, streams into rivers, rivers into torrents that cut deep canyons. The Grand Canyon itself, vast and awe-inspiring, was carved by the steady flow of the Colorado River, not in an instant, but over millions of years. Water sculpted stone into depth and beauty. Wind, too, is a sculptor. It carries fine grains of sand, sweeping them across cliffs and dunes. Each grain scratches the surface of rock, polishing, rounding, wearing. In deserts, winds carve arches, pillars, and curves, transforming landscapes into natural cathedrals. What feels like air's whisper is, over time, a chisel sharp enough to hollow mountains. Pause here. Inhale the whisper of wind. Exhale the strength hidden in gentleness. Ice carves with even slower patience. Glaciers, vast rivers of frozen water, move inch by inch across valleys. As they advance, they grind stone beneath them, carrying boulders, scouring cliffs, smoothing the land into broad U-shaped valleys. When they retreat, they leave behind carved landscapes, lakes, and moraines, evidence of their immense, deliberate strength. To see a glacier is to watch time itself, moving, slow, and unstoppable. Even tiny forces play their part. A root pushing into a crack can split stone. A lichen growing on a rock can break it down, grain by grain, releasing minerals back to soil. No sculptor is too small. The earth is reshaped not only by grand rivers and glaciers, but by raindrops, roots, and moss. Patience itself is power. Breathe gently. Inhale the strength of rivers. Exhale the persistence of roots. Erosion is not destruction, it is transformation. The stone that washes away from mountains becomes sand for beaches, clay for soil, silt for riverbeds. Nothing is lost. It only moves, reshaped into new forms. The valley carved by rivers becomes fertile land. The sand carried by wind builds dunes that shelter life. The pebbles smoothed by waves become polished stones glistening along shores. The sculptors do not erase, they recreate. Science measures erosion with precision. Rates of weathering, flow of rivers, movement of glaciers, all are tracked and calculated. But beyond numbers lies wonder, the realization that what you see today is only a moment in a vast process. Every hill was once higher, every valley shallower, every shoreline farther out. Landscapes are not fixed, they are conversations between stone and sculptors, written in shifting lines. Pause once more. Inhale the conversation of earth. Exhale the story of time. There is metaphor here too. Just as stone is shaped by soft persistence, so are you. Rain is like patience, carving away hardness over years. Wind is like words, subtle yet powerful enough to shape and polish. Ice is like time, moving slowly but leaving undeniable marks. Even the smallest gestures, a kind word, a small habitar like roots in stone, capable of shaping the deepest parts of you. You, too, are sculpted by forces gentle and slow, transformed into new landscapes of self. Think of the way grief, over time, softens, the way joy, repeated, builds grooves in memory, the way challenges wear at you but also create valleys where growth can flourish. Erosion is not only outside but within, always shaping, always creating. As you prepare for rest, imagine yourself as part of a vast landscape. Around you, rain falls softly, rivers carve gently, wind whispers across stone, ice moves patiently. You feel yourself both shaped and shaping, part of this endless sculpting. Nothing is fixed, nothing is final. Everything is becoming. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the patience of sculptors. Exhale into the comfort of transformation. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. Rain, rivers, wind, and ice carve stone, smoothing mountains into valleys. Erosion is patient, yet powerful, shaping the world you see. Time itself is a sculptor with soft hands, always at work, always creating beauty from endurance. Beneath everything you know, your bed, your walls, your city, there is stone. It may not be visible, hidden under soil, grass, or concrete, but it is always there. Stone is the foundation on which your world rests, the steady floor beneath all movement, the patient witness to every life. Tonight, as you close your eyes, you return to that foundation. Hard though it feels, cold to the touch, stone is not only weight, it is story, memory, and care. Breathe slowly. Inhale the steadiness of stone. Exhale the softness of its memory. Think of the pillow beneath your head. Though filled with feathers or fibers, beneath it lies the floor, and beneath that stone, it has held houses, temples, caves, and fields for countless generations. The same ground that holds you now once held your ancestors and their ancestors before them. The stone beneath you has not shifted its patience, though centuries of lives have passed above it. To rest here is to be part of that continuity, folded into the same diary of earth. Stone is everywhere, but never the same. In one place, it is the quiet gray of shale, pages pressed together from ancient mud. In another, it is the sparkling white of marble, born from seas and remade by fire. In another still, it is black obsidian, fire cooled into glass. Each stone beneath your world is a story, a reminder that what seems solid is actually layered with memory. Pause here. Inhale the presence of the ground. Exhale the patience it offers. Remember the seas turned to stone limestone cliffs, chalk beds, shale layers. Beneath your home may lie the remnants of oceans, their corals and shells pressed into permanence. When you walk through fields, you may be stepping over the bodies of creatures long gone, their skeletons transformed into the bedrock of your world. Oceans have moved, vanished, risen again, but their whispers remain beneath you. To sleep on stone is to sleep on oceans. Remember to the pressure of time, the mountains formed by folding, the marble sculpted from limestone, the quartzite born from sand. Beneath you may lie rock that has endured heat and weight, transformed silently over millions of years. These stones are the sculptures of earth, carved not by human hands, but by pressure, shaped not in hours, but in ages. To rest on them is to rest on transformation itself. Breathe gently. Inhale the memory of oceans. Exhale the patience of mountains. Think of fire in the stone. Beneath many lands, basalt spreads like ink, the cooled lava of ancient eruptions. In some places, obsidian lies hidden, glassy reminders of sudden cooling. In others, pumice still carries the bubbles of gases that once frothed and roared. To sleep above stone is to rest on fire, tamed, cooled, but never forgotten. Even now, deep beneath, Earth's molten heart still glows, reminding you that creation is not over. And remember the footsteps pressed into stone dinosaurs, leaving tracks in mud. Humans walking across volcanic ash. Beneath your feet may lie the marks of beings who lived before you, their paths hardened into permanence. Some were giants, their steps wide and heavy. Others were tender, children, parents, wanderers crossing plains. To sleep above stone is to rest on their presence, their memory pressed into the same earth that holds you. Pause once more. Inhale the fire, cooled into rock. Exhale the footsteps, preserved in silence. Stone also holds the sculpting of time valleys, carved by rivers, cliffs smoothed by wind, slopes molded by glaciers. Each curve, each hollow, each ridge is the work of patient forces that shaped the stone beneath. To lie down tonight is to be cradled not only by rock, but by the hands of rain, wind, ice, and rivers, each sculptor leaving their mark. The stone you rest on has been softened by these hands, shaped into the foundation of your world. Science reads all of this in stone. Geologists measure strata, identify minerals, classify fossils, calculate pressures. They piece together Earth's story like archivists, deciphering chapters written in color and grain. But you need not measure to feel. When you lie on the ground, when you press your hand to stone, you sense the depth of its patience. It holds more than weight. It holds memory. There is metaphor here, one that speaks directly to you. Beneath your own mind, beneath your busy days and shifting moods, there is also foundation, solid, enduring, patient. Like stone, you carry layers of experience, seas of memory, fires of transformation, pressures that shaped you, footsteps that guided you. To rest tonight is to return to that foundation within yourself, the stone of your being. It may feel heavy at times, but it also holds all your stories, all your endurance, all your quiet strength. Breathe again. Inhale your own foundation. Exhale into the comfort of its memory. As you prepare for sleep, imagine lying on the earth itself. The ground is cool but steady, the sky wide above. Beneath you, unseen but certain, are oceans turned to stone, mountains folded upward, fires cooled into basalt, footprints preserved in ash. You rest on a library of memory, one that has carried life for billions of years. The earth does not hurry, and tonight neither do you. Close your eyes. Imagine the hardness of stone softening into story. What felt cold becomes warm with memory. What felt heavy becomes gentle with patience. You are held by the same foundation that held oceans, forests, dinosaurs, and ancestors. The stone beneath you carries all of them, and now it carries you. Breathe one final time with this vision. Inhale the presence of the stone. Exhale the dreams it holds. And as you close this chapter, you carry a reflection. At last, you return to the stone under your pillow, your house, your world. Hard though it seems, it carries soft stories life, oceans, fire, and footsteps. You fall asleep knowing that stone holds not only weight, but memory, and that in its patience, you too are remembered. Mountains stand as if eternal, their silhouettes carving the horizon with quiet strength. They seem fixed, unmoving, but their story is one of motions low, hidden, but unstoppable. Beneath the earth, plates push and collide, folding stone into arches, lifting valleys into summits. It is not violence in the way we think of it, but breath, expanding, exhaling upward into sky. Imagine standing at the foot of such a peak. Its size overwhelms, yet in its presence you feel a stillness. The air thins, the wind sharpens, and you realize that what seems solid is, in truth, alive with change. Rock once molten now sleeps as granite. Sediment, once soft, lies pressed into ridges. Each layer holds memory, written not in ink, but in pressure and heat. Breathe slowly. Inhale the patience of stone. Exhale into the sky that wraps it. The jagged face of a mountain tells of long erosion. Rain softens it. Ice splits it. Rivers grind its edges. Even the tallest peak is not beyond time's hand. A summit that pierces the clouds today will one day flatten into rolling hills, carried down grain by grain. Mountains remind you that permanence is an illusion. What appears unchanging is always being remade. Pause to picture their creation. Deep in Earth's mantle, molten rock rose, cooling into hard stone. Tectonic plates met, pushing one above another, lifting ridges higher. What now towers as Everest or the Andes began as seabeds, sediments pressed into shale and limestone, later thrust toward the heavens. In their folds are fossils of shells, creatures who once lived far below the waves. Mountains are not only monuments of height, but archives of seas, forests, and skies that vanished long before memory. Wind moves among their slopes, whispering stories across pine and snow. In storms, mountains roar with avalanches and thunder. In stillness, they murmur with streams running down their sides, cutting new valleys, polishing stone. They are not silent. Their language is slower than ours, spoken in centuries. Yet it is there if you listen. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine sitting on a high ledge. The stone beneath you is cold, rough, unmoved by your weight. And yet it has shifted through eons, pressed upward, fractured, reshaped. Your heartbeat lasts only moments, but the mountain holds millions of years. To sit upon it is to rest on a story longer than life itself. The patience of mountains can be felt in cultures that grew beside them. Ancient peoples saw gods in their peaks, altars in their summits, shelter in their valleys. Pilgrims climbed to feel closer to the heavens. Hermits retreated into caves to hear silence unbroken by human noise. Myths rose from their outlines, dragons curled within, deities dwelling above, spirits hidden in their forests. Mountains were never only stone. They were mirrors for human awe, and still they change. Glaciers creep along their sides, carving valleys that one day bloom with rivers and grass. Volcanoes erupt, reshaping ridges overnight. Earthquakes shift their bones, reminding us that beneath stillness lies motion. To stand among mountains is to stand in the presence of time itself, compressed into peaks and valleys. Inhale again. Breathe in their endurance. Exhale your own smallness against their span. Yet their endurance is not without tenderness. Lichens bloom on bare rock, the first life to touch new stone. Alpine flowers take root in cracks, painting color across gray. Animals find shelter among cliffs. Birds wheel above in currents of air. Even the most unyielding face of granite carries the traces of life, drawn delicately across its surface. Mountains are not only archives of the past, but cradles for the present. When night falls, they grow darker than the valleys below, their outlines etched against starlight. You can imagine them murmuring then, not in sound, but in presence, the way a shape against the sky can calm the mind, remind you of something greater. To sleep in their shadow is to rest beneath ancient guardians, listening not with ears, but with breath. The murmurs of mountains are easy to miss in a hurried life. Yet if you pause, you feel them in the cool of stone beneath your hand, in the hush of wind weaving through peaks, in the knowledge that what seems solid is still moving. They whisper not of eternity, but of patience, of change slow enough to be mistaken for stillness. Every mountain carries within it the memory of fire, of water, of pressure. Every peak tells of oceans long gone, of forests buried, of skies forgotten. They are not only landscapes, they are storytellers, carrying the earth's history in silence. As you breathe with them, you may sense this. Mountains are not distant, not separate. You carry their minerals in your bones, their dust in your lungs, their patience in your heart. Their murmurs are already within you. Rivers are patient sculptors. Long before cities, before fields were plowed or paths were marked, water traced its way across stone. Droplets gathered into trickles, trickles into streams, streams into rivers. Over ages, they carried not only life, but memory. A river is not only water, is time flowing. Look closely at a pebble in your hand. It may be smooth, edges rounded like a pearl. It was not always so. Once it was sharp, jagged, newly broken from mountain stone. But in the slow embrace of water, it tumbled, turned, pressed against others, until every corner softened. The river leaves no scars. It polishes, reminding you that time too can turn sharpness into grace. Pause here. Inhale the patience of water. Exhale into the shape it leaves behind. Sandstone cliffs, layered in red and gold, tell stories of rivers long vanished. Each stripe is a page, written when water slowed, dropping grains carried from distant peaks. The layers build quietly thousands of years, stacked into a wall. To walk beside them is to walk through memory, each line a horizon of ancient currents. Canyons whisper of persistence. Think of the Grand Canyon, carved not by violence, but by a river's steady breath. Mile by mile, year by year, water cut its way through rock older than life itself. The result is vast, yet the method was simple. Flow, endure, repeat. The canyon is a monument, not to strength, but to patience. Even dry valleys carry the echo of rivers. Wind shapes them now, dust drifts through them, but their lines reveal where water once ran. Fossilized ripples in stone show waves long stilled. To place your hand on them is to touch the rhythm of water that left long before you came. Pause again. Inhale the memory of flow. Exhale into the stillness that follows. Rivers are not only carvers of land. Along their banks, civilizations rose, nourished by fertile soil and flowing water. Yet, even before humans, rivers fed forests, meadows, and animals that followed their paths. Wherever water ran, life gathered. The stones it touched carry not only marks of erosion, but the memory of life that grew beside it. Some rivers have disappeared into deserts, their courses marked only by polished stone and empty beds. Others have changed direction, leaving oxbow lakes behind as curved signatures across the land. Still others run underground, carving caverns, leaving behind stalactites and stalagmites that rise like frozen drips of time. To imagine rivers is to imagine hands constant, unhurried, shaping the face of earth. They do not argue with stone. They simply return, season after season, drop after drop, until even the hardest cliff softens. Their persistence is quiet but absolute. When you listen closely, rivers murmur even in their absence. The rounded pebble in a garden, the smooth surface of an old boulder, the grooves worn into canyon walls all speak of water that once moved there. Stones remember what water forgets, and so you rest in this thought that every smooth pebble, every layered cliff, every carved valley is a trace of ancient rivers. The land itself carries their memory, pressed into its body like footprints. Deep within the earth, where pressure folds upon itself and time moves slower than memory, something quiet is always happening. Atoms, restless yet patient, find one another. They fall into patterns, repeating again and again until shape is born. Quartz, diamond, mica, feldspar emerge not from chance, but from the gentle insistence of order. These are crystals, Earth's hidden letters, written in silence, their poems composed over millennia. Imagine holding a piece of quartz in your hand. It feels ordinary, perhaps, cool and solid. Yet, when you tilt it, light scatters, refracted through the orderly lattice of its atoms. What you see as a shimmer is more than beauty, it is a glimpse into structure, a geometry carried in silence. Each glint is a syllable, each edge a phrase, part of a poem too vast for the hurried eye to read. Pause here. Inhale the patience of stone. Exhale the patterns that slowly unfold. Diamonds tell the same story, but under harsher conditions. Buried deep beneath the mantle, carbon atoms are pressed with unimaginable force. Instead of breaking, they align, locking into a structure harder than anything else on Earth. From that silence emerges brilliance light, split into rainbows, the sparkle of something both fragile and unyielding. It is as though the Earth, under immense pressure, wrote a line of poetry in diamond, polished by time itself. Crystals are not rare accidents, they are the natural grammar of matter. When atoms settle into repeating lattice, symmetry appears, as if nature itself prefers rhythm. Salt, sugar, emerald, sapphire each speaks with a different tone, but all follow the same language of repetition and order. What looks random at first becomes harmonious when seen at the scale of atoms. Breathe again. Inhale the symmetry of hidden forms. Exhale into the beauty it reveals. Mica flakes apart in thin sheets, shimmering like pages of a book. Feldspar scatters colors across granite, a quiet mosaic born from cooling magma. Amethyst carries within its purple glow the memory of iron atoms disturbed during formation, their small imperfection turning into color. Every crystal is a word, every mineral a line, together composing the epic poem of Earth's crust. And yet, this poem is not only written beneath the ground, it is also spoken in caves, where stalactites glisten with mineral deposits, each drop of water leaving behind a trace that crystallizes over centuries. It is written in ice, whose hexagonal patterns reflect the same crystalline language. Even snowflakes, each unique yet governed by symmetry, are verses whispered from sky to soil. To study crystals is to listen to a language almost too slow for us to hear. Growth happens over thousands, millions of years, atoms slipping into place one by one, a rhythm beyond urgency. What emerges is clarity, shape, and beauty. A geode cracked open reveals its secret not with sound, but with light sparkling from its hidden heart. Pause once more. Inhale the glimmer of hidden poems. Exhale the patience that lets them grow. Humans have long recognized this language, even if they could not translate it. Ancient cultures carried crystals as charms, believing them to hold strength, clarity, or protection. Builders shaped them into tools. Artists carved them into jewels. Today, scientists read their structures with X-ray eyes, mapping the arrangement of atoms as if deciphering the Earth's alphabet. Crystals tell us how pressure, temperature, and time work together. They are records as much as they are ornaments. And so, a crystal is both science and story. It is a pattern of atoms, but it is also a reminder that from pressure comes beauty, from repetition comes form, from silence comes song. They show us that even in stillness there is creativity's low, invisible, but profound. When you close your eyes, imagine yourself shrinking to the scale of atoms. You see them locking into place, one beside another, like dancers moving into a pattern, like letters forming a word. The dance is infinite, the word unending, but the meaning is clear. Order can emerge from chaos, beauty from patience. Crystals are Earth's quiet language, etched into stone, spoken in light. They are verses hidden beneath mountains, tucked into rivers, carried in pockets of time. To hold one is to hold a fragment of a poem that began long before you, and will continue long after, deep within the earth, where pressure folds upon itself and time moves slower than memory. Something quiet is always happening. Atoms, restless yet patient, find one another. They fall into patterns, repeating again and again until shape is born. Quartz, diamond, mica, feldspar emerge not from chance, but from the gentle insistence of order. These are crystals, Earth's hidden letters, written in silence, their poems composed over millennia. Imagine holding a piece of quartz in your hand. It feels ordinary, perhaps, cool and solid. Yet, when you tilt it, light scatters, refracted through the orderly lattice of its atoms. What you see as a shimmer is more than beauty. It is a glimpse into structure, a geometry carried in silence. Each glint is a syllable, each edge a phrase, part of a poem too vast for the hurried eye to read. Pause here. Inhale the patience of stone. Exhale the patterns that slowly unfold. Diamonds tell the same story, but under harsher conditions. Buried deep beneath the mantle, carbon atoms are pressed with unimaginable force. Instead of breaking, they align, locking into a structure harder than anything else on Earth. From that silence emerges brilliance light, split into rainbows, the sparkle of something both fragile and unyielding. It is as though the Earth, under immense pressure, wrote a line of poetry in diamond, polished by time itself. Crystals are not rare accidents, they are the natural grammar of matter. When atoms settle into repeating lattice, symmetry appears, as if nature itself prefers rhythm. Salt, sugar, emerald, sapphire each speaks with a different tone, but all follow the same language of repetition and order. What looks random at first becomes harmonious when seen at the scale of atoms. Breathe again. Inhale the symmetry of hidden forms. Exhale into the beauty it reveals. Mica flakes apart in thin sheets, shimmering like pages of a book. Feldspar scatters colors across granite, a quiet mosaic born from cooling magma. Amethyst carries within its purple glow the memory of iron atoms disturbed during formation, their small imperfection turning into color. Every crystal is a word, every mineral a line, together composing the epic poem of Earth's crust. And yet, this poem is not only written beneath the ground, it is also spoken in caves, where stalactites glisten with mineral deposits, each drop of water leaving behind a trace that crystallizes over centuries. It is written in ice, whose hexagonal patterns reflect the same crystalline language. Even snowflakes, each unique yet governed by symmetry. Our verses whispered from sky to soil. To study crystals is to listen to a language almost too slow for us to hear. Growth happens over thousands, millions of years, atoms slipping into place one by one, a rhythm beyond urgency. What emerges is clarity, shape, and beauty. A geode cracked open reveals its secret not with sound, but with light sparkling from its hidden heart. Pause once more. Inhale the glimmer of hidden poems. Exhale the patience that lets them grow. Humans have long recognized this language, even if they could not translate it. Ancient cultures carried crystals as charms, believing them to hold strength, clarity, or protection. Builders shaped them into tools. Artists carved them into jewels. Today, scientists read their structures with X-ray eyes, mapping the arrangement of atoms as if deciphering the Earth's alphabet. Crystals tell us how pressure, temperature, and time work together. They are records as much as they are ornaments. And so, a crystal is both science and story. It is a pattern of atoms, but it is also a reminder that from pressure comes beauty, from repetition comes form, from silence comes song. They show us that even in stillness there is creativity's low, invisible, but profound. When you close your eyes, imagine yourself shrinking to the scale of atoms. You see them locking into place, one beside another, like dancers moving into a pattern, like letters forming a word. The dance is infinite, the word unending, but the meaning is clear. Order can emerge from chaos, beauty from patience. Crystals are Earth's quiet language, etched into stone, spoken in light. They are verses hidden beneath mountains, tucked into rivers, carried in pockets of time. To hold one is to hold a fragment of a poem that began long before you and will continue long after. The earth remembers not only the bodies of animals, but also the breath of plants. Where once leaves stretched toward sunlight and trees reached upward in quiet forests, stone now holds their memory. Fossils of plants are delicate, yet enduring, etched veins, fine stems, and entire trunks captured in stone. They remind us that life is not forgotten, even when its voice has long faded. Imagine holding a slab of shale. At first it seems ordinary, gray and flat, but tilt it in the light, and you see the outline of a leaf pressed into its surface. Its veins fan outward, like rivers branching from a spring, delicate lines preserved in mineral. Millions of years ago, it fell from a tree, drifting to the ground like any leaf in autumn. It landed in soft mud, was buried, and over time, the mud hardened into stone. What was once fragile and fleeting became etched forever. Pause here. Inhale the memory of green. Exhale into the patience of stone. Some fossilized leaves are so detailed that even their smallest veins remain visible. They are as thin as whispers, yet stone remembers them faithfully. To see one is to glimpse not only the form of a tree, but also the climate of its time, the air it breathed, the sunlight it caught, the rhythm of seasons long past. Fossil leaves are more than impressions. They are postcards from ancient worlds, carried forward in silence. But even more astonishing are forests turned to stone. In places where volcanic ash once fell, or mineral-rich water seeped through wood, entire trees have been preserved not in their living flesh, but in petrified form. Cell by cell, Wood was replaced with silica, calcite, or quartz. What once bent in wind became harder than steel, yet still carried the same rings, the same bark, the same branching memory of growth. Step into a petrified forest, and you wander among giants frozen in time. Trunks lie scattered on the ground, some as long as houses, their insides gleaming with bands of crystal. Others stand upright, rooted in soil that no longer breathes. They are not trees now, but stone sculptures, their lives transformed into permanence. You can run your hand along bark that once was rough, now polished like glass. The forest is silent, but it hums with memory. Breathe again. Inhale the endurance of wood. Exhale the shimmer of minerals that hold it. These stone forests are scattered across the world deserts of Arizona, plateaus of Argentina, plains of China. Each is a reminder that life leaves traces not only in stories or genes, but in matter itself. What was once soft can become strong. What once grew in silence can endure as crystal. The transformation is not a trick, but a slow partnership between life and Earth's deep chemistry. Fossil plants reveal a different rhythm of time than bones. Dinosaurs roared and vanished, but trees rooted and grew for centuries before falling. Their memories stretch longer, their patterns deeper. A fossilized tree carries not only the mark of a single moment, but the span of centuries etched in its rings. You can still trace them, circle within circle, a calendar of ancient years, held long after the forest fell. And yet there is tenderness in this endurance. A leaf fossil is delicate, thin as lace. A petrified trunk is massive, glowing with quartz. Both carry the same truth, that life, no matter how fleeting, leaves a shape behind. The earth does not erase everything. It keeps, in its stone libraries, the forms of forests, the veins of leaves, the silent reaching of branches. As you imagine this, you may find comfort in the thought that even what seems fragile can endure. The leaf that crumbled in your hand last autumn vanished, but another leaf, just like it, pressed into stone millions of years ago, remains. Memory is never fully lost, is only carried in ways we cannot always see. Fossil leaves and stone forests tell us that the earth is not only rock and fire, but also archive. It remembers the green as much as the gray, the soft as much as the strong. It writes with minerals, but preserves the shapes of life, as if whispering, nothing is entirely forgotten. At first glance, a desert may seem silent, barren, even empty. But to the patient eye, it speaks in layers, in colors, in curves. Its stories are not told in rivers or forests, but in stone, the red cliffs, the arches carved by wind, the towering mesas that stand like pages half open. Sandstone is the desert's diary, written grain by grain, its words etched by wind and sealed by time. Imagine holding a single grain of sand between your fingers. Tiny, almost weightless, yet within it lies a journey. It may have once been part of a mountain, broken by frost, carried by rivers, dropped in a floodplain. Later, it may have been lifted again by wind, blown across dunes, polished by collisions with other grains. In its smallness, it carries a history longer than civilizations. Pause here. Inhale the patience of sand. Exhale into the vastness it creates. Layer upon layer, these grains settle into dunes that eventually harden. Over millions of years, pressure fuses them into sandstone, a rock that still carries the lines of its origin. Look at a sandstone cliff, and you can see the ancient desert, within it the ripples of dunes, the angles of wind-blown slopes, the colors of minerals baked by sun. It is as if the desert, knowing its shifting nature, chose to write itself down in stone. The red hues of sandstone come from iron, rusting slowly within the grains. The color itself is a story of oxygen in the air, of water passing briefly through, of minerals reacting and staining the sand. Walk through canyons in Utah or Petra, and you walk through pages painted by chemistry as much as by time. The earth does not write in black and white, but in ochres, crimsons, and golds. Canyons cut into these layers reveal crossbeds, slanted lines that once were the faces of dunes. Each tells the direction of ancient winds, long vanished, yet still visible. You can run your hand along them and feel the touch of breezes that blew before humans dreamed of writing. The stone is a fossil, not of bones, but of air. Pause again. Inhale the breath of vanished winds. Exhale into the silence they left. And then there are arches, vast windows, in stone carved by water, frost, and wind. They look fragile, as if they might collapse tomorrow, yet they have endured for thousands of years. Their beauty is not deliberate but patient, cracks widened by rain, flakes loosened by ice, grains carried away, until what remains is a curve, a hollow, a frame for the sky. To look through such an arch is to gaze not just at landscape, but at time sculpted into elegance. Sandstone deserts are not lifeless either. Life has always moved across them, leaving traces. Dinosaurs once walked across sandy plains, their tracks pressed into dunes, later buried and preserved. Ancient peoples carved homes and temples into cliffs, their walls still bearing chisel marks. In each case, the stone held memory, refusing to forget. In deserts today, sand still moves. Dunes wander like slow waves, migrating with the wind. Each crest rises and falls, yet the desert as a whole remains. It is both motion and stillness, chaos and order. Watching dunes shift is like watching breathing, written in lambda rhythm, too vast for hours, but clear across centuries. Breathe deeply now. Inhale the rhythm of dunes. Exhale into the stillness they conceal. The silence of deserts is deceptive. It is not emptiness, but space for echoes of wind whistling through canyons, of sand hissing as it moves, of stone cracking in heat and cooling at night. This silence becomes another kind of language, one that invites you not to fill it, but to listen. Sandstone is the archive of this language. Every cliff face holds a conversation between wind, water, and time. Every curve is a sentence. Every grain is a word. And though the story seems immense, it is made of countless tiny motions, shifting, settling, and waiting. To walk in a sandstone desert is to walk in a library. Walls of stone rise like shelves, each filled with layers of memory. Some tell of shallow seas that once covered the land before deserts formed. Others speak of floods that swept across dunes, leaving rippled patterns. Others carry the record of droughts. When the sun carved dust into stone, what you see today as arches, mesas, or cliffs are not finished works, but fragment sentences left mid-thought, chapters interrupted by erosion, pages still being written. Deserts are never done with their story. They are storytellers who never set down the pen. And so, when you picture deserts written in sandstone, you see not emptiness but abundance. You see the persistence of time's hand, the patience of wind, the artistry of water, the quiet resilience of stone. Each grain, each layer, each curve speaks. The desert's voice is slow, but it is clear. You rest in this truth. Deserts are not barren voids, but storytellers. They tell of vanished winds, ancient rivers, and lives that once walked their shifting floors. And they remind you that even the smallest grain, given time, can shape the grandest forms. Ice has a memory of its own. It does not write in ink, nor in fire, but in weight. During the ice ages, vast glaciers covered much of Earth, stretching across valleys, mountains, and plains. They moved so slowly you could not see their motion, yet their footsteps carved countenance. In silence, they shaped the world we walk today. Picture a valley high in the mountains. Before the glaciers came, rivers cut narrow V-shapes into the stone. Then ice arrived, filling the valleys, pressing outward with immense weight. Over thousands of years, the sharp lines were smoothed, widened, deepened. The river's signature V became the glacier's U, broad and patient. Even after the ice retreated, the valleys kept that shape, as though signed by cold hands. Pause here. Inhale the chill of memory. Exhale into the shape it leaves behind. Glaciers carried not only valleys but also stones. As they slid, they picked up boulders, grinding them beneath, dragging them across miles. Some were dropped when the ice melted, left stranded in fields far from their origins. These are glacial erratics, enormous rocks sitting strangely alone. Silent reminders of journeys no human could have moved them on. To touch one is to touch a traveler that once rode upon ice. The grinding of glaciers also left striation scratches etched into bedrock. Long, parallel lines carved by stones pressed into the underside of moving ice. If you find them today, you can run your hand along grooves that mark the direction of ancient flow. They are the footprints of glaciers, written not in soil, but in scars across stone. Breathe again. Inhale the patience of movement. Exhale the endurance of stone. When the glaciers melted, they left behind moraines, heaps of rock, gravel, and clay, piled where the ice once paused. Some are ridges marking the edge of a glacier's reach. Others are scattered deposits across plains. To walk across them is to walk across frozen history. The bones of ice arranged in patterns the land still carries. Even lakes tell of the ice ages. As glaciers retreated, they carved basins that later filled with water, creating the Great Lakes of North America and countless smaller ones scattered across the world. These lakes are the mirrors of glaciers, reflecting the sky where once there was only frozen weight. Pause once more. Inhale the reflection of water. Exhale the memory of ice. For humans, the ice ages are distant, yet their marks are everywhere. They shaped where rivers flow, where soil is rich, where forests grew after the ice retreated. The fertile plains of Europe, Asia, and North America were gifts of glaciers, which ground rock into fine dust, slow as spreading it across vast areas. Life flourished in the wake of frozen giants, and yet glaciers still remain, though fewer. On Greenland, in Antarctica, in high mountain ranges, the ice continues to move, carving, grinding, reshaping. We live not only after the ice ages, but still within their breath. And as the climate changes, glaciers retreat, leaving behind bones of their memory stones, valleys, and scars. To walk in glacial country is to walk with ghosts. A lone boulder in a meadow, a U-shaped valley, a polished cliff face. Though the glaciers moved slowly, they spoke loudly in stone. Their language is permanence, written across continents, reminding us that even the coldest silence has power. As you rest with this thought, you realize the ice did not vanish. Its stories remain in the bones of landscapes, in the lakes that hold sky, in the scattered stones that still rest far from home. Ice moved mountains, and then it left its memory behind for us to see. Step softly into a cave, and the world above fades. The light narrows to a dim glow, the air cools, and every sound carries longer, as though the walls themselves are listening. Caves are places of patience, carved by water through stone, hollowed over ages into quiet chambers. To enter one is to step into a library where both earth and humanity have left their echoes. Dripping water is the first sound you notice. Each drop carries minerals from the ceiling, leaving behind a tiny trace of stone. Over centuries, these traces grow into stalactites that hang like teeth of crystal. From the floor below, stalagmites rise to meet them, fed by the same dripping rhythm. Some touch at last, forming columns that bind floor and ceiling. They are slow-growing pillars, shaped not by force, but by persistence. Pause here. Inhale the cool stillness. Exhale into the rhythm of dripping water. Caves are also decorated with flowstone ribbons of calcite that cascade across walls, shining like frozen waterfalls. Curtains of mineral ripple in folds, as though stone itself has softened into fabric. To run your hand across them would be to touch time hardened into sculpture. Every surface is an archive of water's patient artistry, but caves remember more than stone. In their darkness, humans found shelter, ritual, and a canvas. On walls, they painted animals, bison, horses, mammoths, deer. These were not idle sketches, but visions, prayers, or stories marks meant to hold meaning in the quiet heart of earth. Torches flickered against the drawings, bringing them to life, as though the walls themselves were breathing the hunts and herds of another age. Carvings, too, remain handprints pressed against stone, figures etched with flint. Some are simple outlines, others are elaborate spirals or symbols whose meaning is lost. Yet all carry the same truth. Humans were here, and they wanted to be remembered. The cave kept their whispers, tucking them into its folds for millennia. Pause again. Inhale the nearness of human hands. Exhale into the silence that preserved them. Caves also carry natural echoes. Your footsteps rebound softly. Your voice becomes larger than yourself. Ancient people must have noticed this too, the way a single sound seemed like many, the way the walls spoke back. In such echoes, mystery lived. The cave was not only shelter, but also spirit, a place where the boundary between human and earth blurred, and beyond memory, caves also teach. Stalactites and stalagmites grow like clocks, each layer holding chemical traces of climate, rainfall, drought, temperature. Scientists read them as timelines, as precise as rings of trees. In their minerals, are records of ice ages, of shifting monsoons, of skies long gone. The cave is not only a library of art, but also of weather, of Earth's own diary. To rest within a cave is to feel two presences at once: nature's slow construction and humanity's fleeting touch. Both are fragile. Paintings fade when touched by air. Formations break when carelessly handled. The library is delicate, yet it endures, hidden underground, safe in darkness. As you imagine leaving the cave, light returning, you carry with you this thought: caves are echoes. They echo, water shaping stone, humans shaping story, silence shaping memory. They are places where time lingers, where past and present lean close. Stones seem like the very symbol of stillness, heavy, solid, rooted where they rest. Yet the truth is different. Rocks are travelers. They move, though not with footsteps or sails, but with the patient forces of earth glaciers sliding across continents. Rivers carrying pebbles to the sea, waves rolling them along coasts until they gleam. To see a stone where it lies is to see only its pause, not its journey. Imagine walking through a field and finding a massive boulder sitting strangely alone. It does not match the stone of the surrounding hills. Its edges are worn, its body scarred. This is a glacial erratic, carried hundreds of miles by ice and left behind when the glacier melted. Once it traveled in silence, riding frozen rivers of unimaginable size. Now it rests, a witness to journeys across ages. Pause here. Inhale the weight of distance. Exhale into the patience of stone. Not all travelers are so large. Rivers carry countless smaller stones, tumbling them along their beds. Pebbles roll and clash, their corners softening as they move downstream. Each smooth stone you pick up from a riverbed is not only an object, but also a story of mountains eroding, of floods sweeping, of seasons shifting. The water never hurries, yet the stone changes with every turn. On beaches, stones wander differently. Waves pull them forward and back, polishing them until they shine. Sea glass, too, is born this way. Shards of human-made glass, broken, carried, tumbled until sharp edges blur and colors soften. A fragment of bottle becomes a gem, shaped by the ocean's tireless hand. Even here, movement transforms. Breathe again. Inhale the rhythm of waves. Exhale the memory they leave behind. The greatest journeys belong to stones carried by glaciers. During the ice ages, walls of ice ground across the land, dragging rocks with them. Some were crushed to powder, spread as fertile soil. Others, enormous and unbroken, rode upon the ice, carried vast distances. When the glaciers melted, they were dropped, sometimes in valleys, sometimes on ridges, sometimes balanced precariously in strange places. These erratics tell us where the ice once moved, pointing like signposts across the land. Volcanoes, too, send stones traveling. Lava erupts, carrying fragments of older rock within its flow. Explosions hurl ash and pumice into the sky, scattering them across miles. Later, these stones fall to earth, light enough to drift, heavy enough to leave their mark. Each fragment lands as a messenger from deep within, telling of fire carried outward. Pause once more. Inhale the energy of fire. Exhale into the quiet after eruption. Sometimes, stones travel underground, Rivers slip into caverns, carrying sand and pebbles that shape caves with their flow. Winds lift dust from deserts, carrying grains across oceans. In each case, stone takes flight not with wings, but with patience. The planet moves its bones constantly, rearranging them in new patterns. And humans, too, have become carriers of stone. We quarry marble, carve granite, polish jade. We lift stones to build walls, temples, and cities. Yet even these are only pauses in a longer story. Buildings crumble, statues fall, fragments scatter. Eventually, human-carried stones return to the earth, to be lifted again by ice, water, or wind. Traveling stones are reminders that nothing is fixed. Even the heaviest mountain will one day crumble, its fragments carried far from their origin. Even the lightest pebble may take a journey longer than lifetimes. Stillness is only appearance. Motion is truth. When you walk beside a river, or stand on a beach, or climb a mountain valley, you stand among travelers. Every stone beneath your feet has moved. Every grain of sand has crossed distances beyond your imagining. The land is a migration written in minerals, its paths traced not by feet but by elements. So you rest in this thought. Stones take journeys too. They move without intention, without haste, yet they travel farther and endure longer than we ever could. Their patience is their power, their silence, their map. And when you touch one, you touch not only weight, but also the memory of motion. Beneath you, beneath every step, lies the oldest companion you will ever know. Stone spreads quietly under fields, forests, oceans, and cities. It feels unyielding, permanent, as if it were the anchor of the world. Yet stone is never still. The earth turns, folds, shifts, and breathes, and the ground you stand on is part of that slow, patient motion. What you see as hard is only one moment in a much longer story. Every pebble carries centuries. Every boulder holds millennia. Every mountain is a book written across billions of years. Stones endure far beyond the rise and fall of civilizations. Yet they are not lifeless. They are archives, witnesses, storytellers. Their patience is not silence, but memory stretched thin across time. Pause here. Inhale the strength of the ground. Exhale the weight it has carried. Consider how even the hardest granite is born from fire, rising molten from the earth's deep body before cooling into solidity. What seems immutable was once fluid, bright with heat. Basalt plains flowed from volcanoes like rivers of stone, later hardening into black fields. Marble began as limestone, transformed by heat and pressure into something luminous, veined, and strong. In each case, patience worked quietly, turning chaos into form. But stone is not only about beginnings. It also speaks of endings. Mountains, no matter how tall, are worn down. Rain seeps into cracks, freezing and expanding, breaking rock apart. Rivers grind boulders into pebbles, pebbles into sand. Winds carry dust across continents. Nothing resists forever, not even stone. Yet, in its breaking, it begins new journeys, each fragment becoming part of another chapter. Breathe slowly now. Inhale the truth of transformation. Exhale the comfort of cycles. Stone holds within it the patience of Earth's deepest rhythms. Continental plates drift, colliding to raise new ranges or tearing apart to form oceans. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies, all born from this slow dance. In their folds are fossils of seas, forests, and creatures long gone, reminders that land was once water, that permanence is an illusion. Even beneath oceans, stone shifts. Mid-ocean ridges spill new crust from molten vents, while trenches swallow it back into the mantle. The earth recycles itself endlessly, and what seems solid is part of a grand breathing, up, down, out, in. The patience of earth is not stillness but flow, too slow for human eyes, yet unstoppable. Pause again. Inhale the breath of ages. Exhale into the span of silence, and within this patience are stories softer than you expect. Fossil leaves pressed into shale, footprints frozen in ash, crystals shining in dark caverns. Each is delicate, yet preserved by stone's endurance. Time does not erase everything. It carries small whispers forward, tucking them into layers where they wait to be found. The patience of earth is also tenderness, keeping safe the fragile traces of life. Humans, too, have long turned to stone for permanence. We carve monuments, build temples, raise tombs, and shape cities from it. Yet even these, grand as they seem, crumble. Temples sink, statues weather, roads break apart. In the end, the stone remains, but transformed, folded back into the earth's own rhythm. What we borrow, we return. Think of how your body, too, carries earth within it. Calcium from ancient seas hardens your bones. Iron from stars pulses in your blood. Minerals from mountains shape your teeth. You are not separate from the patience of earth. You are part of it, walking with its memory inside you. Breathe once more. Inhale the patience of stone. Exhale the patience already within you. The patience of earth is not a lesson to rush, but an invitation to rest. It reminds you that time is larger than worry, that change is slower and deeper than fear. Stones do not hurry, yet they transform. Mountains do not resist erosion, yet they remain beautiful. Rivers do not cling to their banks, yet they carve valleys. In this patience lies comfort. You, too, are allowed to move slowly, to change gently, to endure quietly as you lie back and imagine the ground beneath you. You can feel it holding you not only in this moment, but as part of a much longer story. Stone supports your body, but it also cradles your time, reminding you that you are one breath in a vast rhythm. And so you rest in this thought that patience is not only a human virtue, but the earth's very nature. Stones hold it. Mountains breathe it. Rivers carve it. You live upon it. Time itself rests in stone, and stone rests beneath you, always.